what makes an optimal diet. We look at, in our world here, we're talking 100% vegan, at least 80% live food. We're talking about organic. We're talking about well hydrated with good water. Okay, we're talking about really diet will include your exercise, your energetic input. Those are some of the issues about diet, and I'm going to go a little bit in depth, but I'm not going to give a talk on live food or veganism because we've kind of done that. But what we do know is that vegans, I didn't say live food because there actually isn't enough data on that, but vegans in general, vegan women live about 7.2 years longer, and vegan men live about 4.4 years longer. Roughly speaking, again, that's very, very significant. Now, if we understand vegan from a bigger point of view, I call it holistic veganism. Being vegan is really good for the environment in a very big way, in multiple ways. Again, that's a whole talk. I'm just saying it's really good for the air, water, and earth. It is really good for our health. We know that people who are vegan have 32% less heart disease, significantly less cancer, 35 to 50% less diabetes, less osteoporosis by about a quarter, 1/4 the amount of osteoporosis. High blood pressure, 26% of meat eaters have high blood pressure versus 2% of vegans. And it goes on and on. So, yes, being vegan is much healthier. And being vegan, by eating lower on the food chain, we avoid a whole lot of toxins that are in the environment. The research shows that about 96% of the toxins, the environmental toxins, the pesticides, herbicides, are in animal flesh because animals are at more top of the food chain, whereas plants are more at the bottom. So we will get some, even if you're eating organic, you're going to get some pesticides and herbicides, but significantly less. And we know that pesticides and herbicides interfere with reproduction, with sperm motility, with fertility for women. So clearly, eating lower in the food chain, you're getting less exposure. A vegan mother has 2% of the toxins in her breast milk as a meat-eating mother. So there are lots of things about longevity. The sperm count today is about 50% of what it used to be 40 years ago. It varies in estimates, but we go too much lower than that, and infertility there will be a major problem. Now we'll talk about the water. Today, I don't think there's any pure water anywhere, okay, because of the levels of pollution, besides the radiation from Fukushima and so forth. So the key is, how do we go about preparing our water? There are different systems. We personally use distilled water, but distilled water loses its energy because it's cooked, and so we have to wake it up. So in my book, Spiritual Nutrition, I have a whole chapter on it, but to get to the point, I like it to be about 50 parts per million. So I add a smidgen of whole salt that has 82 minerals, and that's been mined, doesn't come out of the ocean, which is contaminated. Anybody know what a smidgen is? 1/16 of a teaspoon. I just want to see if you're paying attention. 1/16 of a teaspoon, okay. So you put that in a gallon of water, and you now are up to 50 parts per million. That's really healthy water. Now, I tend to want to energize it. There are different ways to do that. There's actual machines you can do it, put out a frequency that awaken it and create kind of a way to hold the energy. And then I then take a wooden spoon and swirl it to the right, creating a vortex that brings energy in, and then to the left, creating a vortex. Then I bless it. Now that's the water we drink. The rest of the thing is RO water is good. RO water is really good for large communities. You can do a lot. The distilled is best, but it's limited to your family. There's only so much distilled water you're going to make. Creating a quiet mind is very important. Lee Chin-Jung, who lived to be 252 years, 1677 to 1937, something like that. People ask him, what's the secret? Oh, he had 23 wives. I mean, you live a long time, okay? He said the secret's a quiet mind. So meditating is really important. Now, what's the research show? Well, the research shows people who meditate for at least 5 years have a physiology that's 15 years younger. That's pretty significant, right? So not only is your mind quiet, but your physiology is working a lot better. How much do you need to meditate? Another question. I recommend twice a day, at least 20 minutes twice a day. That's the minimum. We like to see a half hour twice a day, sunrise, sunset, roughly speaking, up to an hour twice a day. And that's going to give you your optimum quieting of the mind effect, as well as all the physiological effects. So there really is something to say to that. We also know, some research out of Harvard shows that meditating actually increases certain areas of the brain, particularly the memory areas and certain areas in the cortical regions. And it also rebalances the amygdala area, which has to do with balancing your emotions. So literally, when we meditate, the memory areas get bigger, the emotional imbalance areas get a little smaller, and our overall brain function increases. And the fourth is blood sugar control. We know, we're not going to give a whole talk on diabetes this time, I do every time, but not this, that people who have a high blood sugar tend to have significantly increased brain shrinkage. So after in a 5-year study, they found people with a higher blood sugar had double the rate of brain shrinkage. So now we want to ask the question, well, what's a higher blood sugar? Well, optimal blood sugar is 70 to 85. Less than 100 is still okay. I mean, it starts to go down after 86, 87. And prediabetes is 100 to 126. And diabetes is the fasting blood sugar is what I'm talking about. It's 126 on up. So we clearly know that diabetics have increased brain deterioration and brain shrinkage. We should probably turn off our cell phones. Okay. So we really want to do everything to keep the blood sugar 70 to 85. And over the age of 45, people tend to have more difficulty. About 80% of the population over the age of 45 has a blood sugar higher than 85. So that's a real consideration in the process. People age 65 and over, 27% of the population has diabetes, type 2 diabetes by that stage. There are some enzymatic changes. There's an enzyme that gets activated, glucose 6-PD, that makes more sugar in the liver than it should, and converts more muscle protein to sugar than it should. And that actually raises the blood sugar and therefore enhances diabetes. There are some things that we can do to neutralize that. We're not going to get into all that, but what I'm trying to say is we can do something. I watch my blood sugar pretty closely, and I have been doing a lot of traveling, and I noticed my fasting blood sugar was 90, 94, and it's like, even for me, because I'm a little fastidious, right? Fastidious, conscientious, right? That's why I'm up here talking about these things. That was not acceptable. So I took a few herbs, and within 4 days, my fasting blood sugar was 70, which is that's a good place. That's a good place to be. So we can give it attention. When we don't, it's an issue. So I do recommend people get one of those little glucometers and check your blood sugars, because you want to have it less. Obviously, a vegan diet and what I call phase 1, which is very low glycemic, without fruits, without any kind of sweet anything, that's where you want to go to bring your blood sugar down. That's the key to our healing diabetes naturally. So that's it's something that's very, very important. There's no question about it. If you have diabetes, you lose up to 10 to 19 years off your life. More than that, you lose sexual function, you lose brain function, you lose neurological function in that process. So you get gradually debilitated. Exercise is one of the real key players. Now, we're not talking about Olympic exercise. That's one big mistake people make. The research kind of shows minimum 16 minutes a day or 4 times a week of fast exercise, and that could be jumping on a rebounder. I include oxygen, so sometimes, I don't know if you can do it in New York, but is to breathe oxygen while you're jumping on the rebounder, because oxygen is key for mitochondria, and building mitochondria is really, really important. And exercise will build the mitochondria, but it moves everything. It stimulates growth hormone, it calms the mind, it has an antidepressant effect, and it makes the system work. So vigorous exercise, you can do that 3 to 4 times a week. That's all you need to do. It actually isn't good to do 6 or 7 days a week. What I learned in college playing football at Amherst College is that we didn't work hard Thursday and Friday before the game on Saturday. Why? Because the body has to regenerate. If you're over-exercising, the body doesn't have time to regenerate. And the research really says, around 3 to 4 times a week. The other thing is stretching. So because, particularly with age, you tend to contract, stretching. At the age of 70, if you aren't doing breathing exercise, you lose 50% of your lung capacity. And you need oxygen. So we're creating prana, we're exercising, we're stretching, and you need to be able to balance in different ways and things like that. Very, very important, particularly with age. You really want to focus on your balancing. Tomorrow in yoga, I'll do more of the balancing. So those are things that are really important about exercise. Now, one of the things you've heard me mention a few times is service and charity. We all do that in different ways. It could be simply as a grandparent helping out in the kindergartens or that kind of thing. I'm involved in about 126 programs in about 16 countries around the world, so kind of stretched out there a little bit. But, and what we're doing, teaching diabetes prevention and organic veganic farming, getting people really to go vegan because it's the healthiest, and that we're working in 6 countries in Africa, and that is closer to the natural way, so it's actually pretty easy to go that way for people. But service helps you open your heart. Charity is good too. Service in particular, you connect, you make the heart connection, and connection is very, very important for longevity. So we know that people involved in service and charity live longer. When I talk to help people change their diet, I say, well, don't go to 100% live food. You're just learning to get off meat or fish or whatever. Just go one step at a time. Give up fish. Give up. And why do I say fish first? I used to say something different. Because fish are, because of the contamination in the oceans and because of radiation, Fukushima, everywhere, fish are actually more toxic than chicken or cattle or beef. Used to be the other way around. People think it's a healthy food. At this point, we know in diabetes, the fat from fish destroys the beta cells of the pancreas. For diabetics, just stay away from fish. Research in Europe shows that people who have fish 2 to 3 times a week have more diabetes. So I can go on, but we got fat from fish, but we got all the toxins that the fish are exposed to. So it's no longer a really healthy food. Okay, so back to the point. Okay, we'll get off fish first, then go to chicken, then go to beef. But the point I'm making, one step at a time that you can be successful with. Do you see the point I'm making? Oh, no, I'm going to go 100% and then you fail the next day. No, that doesn't build your ability here. So we want to be able to be successful at each step. That's what I call thoughtful optimism. You want to go organic. You want to do that. Yeah, just for example, organic food, there's lots and lots of studies, and they range from 350% more nutrient and so forth. But in all the studies, we get the average down 25% more nutrients, but up to 80% more phytonutrients and antioxidants. And antioxidants are really key in terms of longevity because all the toxins we face in the world are creating free radicals, from 5G, which makes huge amount of free radicals, to just daily life that we face creates free radicals. So we want to go organic. Organic will give us the optimum, by far, the optimum free radical protection. Somewhere, depending on the antioxidant, from 20 to 70% more, particularly the polyphenols. So it's like, wow. Okay, so we go organic because we get more nutrient, we get less pesticides and herbicides by at least 4-fold, and we get significantly less cadmium. That's what the research shows. So it's worth it, making that effort. Your top 3 herbs, but I go to about 6 herbs. We have goji berries, and they're what we call yin jing. They're very, very, very good for you. We have reishi, and we have ginseng. They're different kinds. I'm not going to go into that detail. Then we have cordyceps, which is really good for your life force, the chi, and for lung function. Schizandra. How many people have heard of schizandra? I'm just curious. Okay, so schizandra balances all 12 meridians. It's overall balancing for all the systems. And most of these herbs are what we call, again, yin, jing. And then we have Gynastemnia, which is very good for preventing diabetes and anti-aging. And then Heishu Wu. Heishu Wu is a clear longevity herb, but it builds all the systems. All these herbs build brain function and protect the heart and the lungs. So those are like what I consider the key longevity herbs that to consider. Now, they're taken not as medicines, they're taken a little bit over a long period of time. There are things you're taking day in and day out over the years. That's how they're used. Tonic herbs, not medicinal herbs. I mentioned the sleep before. What we know is people think they get away and get around sleep. Maybe it's more true in New York than not, but you can't really escape it. We need 7 hours minimum sleep. 6 hours, you're not as sharp, you're not as clear. And it isn't just 7 hours, it's 7 hours at starting, the key hours are 10 to 2 to get sleep. So we want 7 hours, but going to bed at 10:30. I go to bed about 10:30, and that's key. Every function of your body does better with it. Your endocrine regenerates. Your serotonin system regenerates. Your immune system regenerates. So sleep is a regenerative time. We have to have that part of it. So it's good to work hard, but it's not good if it goes into your sleep. It minimizes it. And that's key. So I want to emphasize the importance of sleep. I have seen a variety of people who come extremely depleted. And I'm able to check the mitochondria, and I have certain supplements. I have a whole list of supplements, which I'm probably going to share tonight. But there's 3 key supplements that tend to significantly increase the mitochondria per cell, which is what we're talking about. Healthy mitochondria per cell. One is iodine in the form of aluminine. One is D-ribose. Okay, those are 2 big things. And then there's another one, it's a combination of CoQ10, PQQ, which is very good for the heart, but is super for increasing mitochondria. Those are the 3 big players. There's lots of other ones, but in all the research I've done, and both clinical research as well, I'm building up, you got to get sleep, you got to do this, all the things, but once you're depleted, it's a problem. And our society and all the toxins are depleting our mitochondria function. So most people I see are, maybe 500, 700 per cell. I like to get people up to close to 5,000 for the brain cells and 3,500 for the heart cells. So they are the key to your vitality. One of the big things that destroy the mitochondria, which again are the energy factors in the cell, are free radicals. So what we're seeing when we think about 5G at a deeper level is it's creating a tremendous amount of free radicals that literally destroy your mitochondria, so your mind isn't working as well. You got, with 5G, you have a significantly increased amount of mental disorders, depression, suicide, anxiety. Those are all they're all connected with lower mitochondria, so the cells aren't working appropriately, so there's lack of harmony. Does that give people kind of an overview? It's really a very important topic, and everything I'm talking about builds your mitochondria.